I think we're ready to start. So, hello, I am Tom Kolokithas. I'm the co-founder and president of the Greek chapter of the VRARA Association. So VRARA Association is a global force nurturing collaboration in the VR and AR space. And I would like also to take this opportunity to ask you to join us in the upcoming Global Enterprise Summit on July 24th this summer, where world-renowned speakers will discuss extended reality, digital twins, and AI, and we're anticipating a vast audience. So please keep an eye on this next big event. But today, we explore immersive technologies in K12 education. Our world evolves, and so must education, beyond textbooks to digital engagement that sparks curiosity and lifelong learning. VR and AR can transport students to ancient history, Mars, or whatever interactive learning games we can think of, transforming education into immersive and interactive experiences. VRARA is advancing these technologies in education through research, advocacy, and best practices. So let's harness VR and AR to empower, inspire, and revolutionize learning. I'm thrilled to introduce tonight's host, Mrs. Mirena Hadjivasiliou, Communications Consultant and Communication Head at the Moraitis School. Thank you for having me. Mirena, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here. So shall I take it from here? Yes. We have some very interesting guests today, and I'm very happy that they're from different fields. So we have David Mann from Athens Education. David, would you like to tell us more about what you do?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is David Mann, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Education Strategy at ClassVR. We are the leading VRAR solution for education, and I'm in charge of implementing those projects around the world.
With us is Iro Kouliakou from Anatolia College. Iro, let us know.
Hello to all. Thank you very much for inviting me in this wonderful panel. So I'm the head of STEM of Anatolia College, and I work in Anna Papageorgiou STEM Center, a STEM center open to the whole community, the educational community of Northern Greece, where we run different outreach programs that focus on three pillars: sustainability, inclusion, and new technologies for education.
Great. So from another field of education, again, we have with us Ilona Wasitsa from the University of the Aegean. Hi, Ilona.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here with you today and sharing our ideas about this very interesting topic. I'm a research associate of the educational hub of innovation in the University of the Aegean, and I'm also teaching new technologies in the MSc program of new technologies and lifelong learning programs of the University of the Aegean. Thank you for the invitation again.
Great. Ilias Malikopoulos is with us from Teleport Services. They offer VR experiences. Tell us more.
Hello from me too. It's nice to be in this panel. I'm Ilias Malikopoulos. I'm a mathematician and a software engineer. I'm also the founder of Teleport Services, a company that specializes in the design and implementation of virtual reality experiences. Our team has implemented a platform that can support the production of multiplayer virtual reality experiences completely wirelessly and without any space restrictions.
Great. Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Manos Bardounias from the Moraitis School.
Hello, Mirena. Hello, everyone, and thank you for the invite today. I'm Manos Bardounias, and I'm instructional designer, a computer science educator, and educational technology admin in Moraitis School in Athens.
Great. So we have some very interesting topics to talk about today. We have 5 topics. Let's start with something that I think is interesting for everybody. Inclusion and diversity. In what ways do VR/AR technology can be leveraged to promote inclusion in educational settings? How do we ensure accessibility to all students, regardless of gender, backgrounds, or abilities? For example, how does it impact students with learning difficulties or students in public schools who have no access to resources? Is there a gender bias? I think Iro will have many things to say on the topic.
So as Tom mentioned in his intro, through VR, students can explore virtual laboratories, hands-on experiments, take part in even simulated space missions, and all of this in a safe and controlled environment. And so these experiences can help break down stereotypes and provide the space for young women and girls to get more engaged in STEM. Also really important is the fact that through VR, we can create personalized learning experiences for students. So for students that are shy or who may face challenges, these personalized learning journeys that we create through AR and VR, they could be really helpful in including them in all activities. So something really interesting that we're working on as part of our project Blooming the Future in collaboration with the University of Western Macedonia, University of Dublin, and the University of Palermo is that we're using VR and AR in order to offer virtual mentoring to young women. So we're developing activities with avatars of successful females and engineers of the past who can serve as role models, and we use empathy maps in order to guide the process. So this, we hope that this provides inspiration and also addresses the lack of female role models in traditional textbooks and media.
Perfect. Thank you. I think, Ilona, you also have a program at the university for gender equality and regarding these issues, right?
Right, thanks, Mirena. I agree with Iro for all the advantages that she mentioned about inclusion and diversity in education through these technologies. At the University of the Aegean, we also have the Gender Equality Committee since 2019. Through which we support equality in education, including accessibility to innovative equipment for all. So we allow our students and students from other departments and schools to visit our labs and get introduced into these technologies by using the relevant equipment. Moreover, we organize educational events and visits to these labs, allowing schools, especially public schools, to have access to this equipment that they may not have access at their own facilities. So it's important to support them. And finally, through our research programs, as also Iro mentioned, European projects are important to include public schools and students of different backgrounds to promote inclusion and diversity in the maximum possible extent. We also run some European projects, and one recent one that we are going to see further in our discussion is the PAX project, which also promotes inclusion and diversity to educational settings for all educational levels.
Great. Elias, do you have any programs that are suitable for different kinds of learners?
Yes. We have an ongoing collaboration with a psychologist who specializes in typical and non-typical, formal or non-formal, let's call it, education for kids and adults that are in the autism spectrum. Our goal is to create experiences that are appropriate for these people. And having that in mind, we are trying to create experiences that concern the autonomy of these individuals and can be served through various VR experiences based on everyday social activities, such as visiting a supermarket, a clothing store, a large department store, where there will be various sequences of steps, like product selection, money management, payments, everything that has to do with this behavior. And even we can have a traffic behavior examples, traffic lights, intersections, bike lanes, use of public transport, protection of personal belongings. The list is unlimited. Even social skills in different situations, because those people are lacking those skills. They have a social skill deficit, let's say. And we can make experiences like how to order at a restaurant, how to seek out other people's company, things that are very easy or unknown to us. That could be that can happen in a VR environment, protected, and with and they can make mistakes with no consequences.
Great. So this somehow brings me to the, as Ilona said, accessibility issue. Is it cost effective to adopt immersive technologies in schools? Can we do it? Can a school follow the speed of the constantly evolving technology, or are schools doomed to use outdated equipment? So what can we do about this? David, I think you have some data on the issue.
Yeah, so I think it's a really interesting question, and it's one that every school asks itself every single time it purchases a resource. You know, funding isn't limitless, and it's really important, therefore, that any investment is backed up with training and teacher buy-in, which we're going to come to a little bit later on. But most importantly, this concept that we have at Avantis, that there's no equipment left behind. So when we launch a new feature, it has to be compatible across the estate. And we've been putting VR into education for 7 years now. It's easier said than done technically, but I think it's really important that a school is confident, higher education, whatever the establishment is that they spend the money and then they're going to get a long period of life. We're asking teachers to take a lot on board, to learn to teach in a slightly different way, to complement what they've done for many years in some circumstances. So we have to be confident that that's going to be reliable for the next 5, 10, 15 years. So I think that's a really important question, actually.
Okay, great. Working in a school, how does it work? What do you do? How do you solve the problem?
So I will tell you a bit about our experience. So what we did, so we first started as small scale. So we started with a pilot program, and that allowed us to manage cost more effectively and test all solutions that we might want to use. Then for me, the most important thing is to select the right VR provider. And we opted for a provider that specialized in educational solutions and that offered both hardware and software on a subscription basis. So this approach proved to be cost effective, as it ensured that we received continuous support, training for our educators, and also we are updated and informed about any advancements, any updates, or anything that we need regarding to our hardware and our software. So the third thing is sharing. So last year, we ran one outreach program for public elementary schools. So we had over 1,600 students and about 130 elementary teachers from public schools, where we ran a VR program. So we ran 4 different outreach programs, but the VR program was the one with the most engagement, with which we got the most good comments and the most excitement and engagement, both from students and from educators. So 3 things I would say: start small, select the right provider very carefully, and then, of course, share.
Great. Manos, what's your experience from the same thing? How many headsets do we need?
I want to focus on the part that you can start with only having even one headset and you can start doing the projects that you want. Because when we first started, we had one headset that we used in our F1 in schools team to promote their work and their competition. And then we had it in school and said, okay, how can we use it in classroom? We only have one, but is there a way that we can use it? And after some research, we find that you can use cross-platform software that can run either on a simple browser on the computer, or you can implement the same technology and the same ideas to run in the VR headset. So you have one classroom. The first project that we had is creating a virtual exhibition, how you can go to the physical, from the physical to the virtual state. And we use apps like Tinkercad or Fusion 360 that students have create their own 3D design, which is free software. You only need a laptop to run it on. And then there are apps like Special, where you can upload the design and use that app in the VR headset or in a simple browser as well. So as long as you have that curiosity to look around and research what you can do and what the possibilities are, and of course, by the day, you have even more options to use and softwares to use and what to do with your project, you can start with even one.
That's great.
Then you see the positive, you see the benefits, and it starts growing. Like everyone else said, you can reach out, you can find other collaborators and follow you into that path down VR and AR technology.
That's great news for example, public schools where they might have very limited resources. Could they maybe outsource some things? Elias, could you help schools with bringing them in contact with all of these technologies, but in small doses with less budget?
In education particularly, we have already produced two educational experiences for schools that combine gaming and educational information. The first one is about the mysteries of ancient Egypt, and the second one is about climate change. Schools of all grades can visit our premises, or they can host our experiences in their theaters, gyms, or in any other large space they might happen to have. And according to the feedback we have from these schools, students of all ages clearly prefer gamified learning activities than standard courses. And the outcome is an increased student engagement in learning. There are also many studies on gamification in education, and their results suggest that gamified learning activities should be considered a serious strategy to promote student engagement. That's why we're in the process of designing and producing more experiences related to the school's curriculum. We're currently working on subjects such as Greek mythology, ancient history, and Greek philosophers, and so on.
Okay, that's very interesting, because what happens in the classroom? So, would you like to tell us, are there advantages and disadvantages of integrating VR/AR tools in the classroom? And how can educators achieve learning outcomes while they themselves are now still exploring and learning all these new skills? And can schools support educating the educators?
So as I mentioned, training is a really important part of implementing any kind of new technology in your classroom. So educating the teachers is like the first step, and it should be combined with the purchase of your VR or VAR or any related platform. So what we are the method that we use in order to implement it in our curriculum is that we use the blended learning approach. So I like the term that thoughtful technology integration in education. So this really excites students. We use it as in the engagement phase of our lesson plans. And in order to give them this spark and this enthusiasm and this new view of the thing that we are teaching, but we use it, let's say, in a blended mode. So we use traditional teaching with having VR and AR as part of our lessons.
Great. Ilona, do you have programs to educate the educators in the University of the Aegean?
Yes, actually, we are trying to support them on getting introduced into these technologies through many different programs that we are running through our lifelong learning programs. These could be blended programs, short, extended, depending on the teacher's needs. And the important characteristic of these programs is that we don't only focus on the technologies. For example, Manos mentioned some very interesting programs that could be used in order to apply VR and AR technology for free in the classroom. Such tools are included in our programs so that the teachers can learn how to use them and get skilled on them. But we also support the teachers on how to get funded. For example, following your previous question, programs that allow teachers and school administrations to follow some alternatives on how to get funded to get such equipment, and finally be able to apply these technologies in their schools, no matter if they are public schools or private schools, or they have other restrictions, that we can support them to face these restrictions and challenges.
Manos, how are things in the classroom? What do you actually see? What are the challenges?
The biggest challenge for me is to make the educators understand the importance and how beneficial that technology can be to change their way of maybe traditional teaching to integrating technology into it. So at first you need to make them see that it can enhance their teaching and can improve their work and what they do in the classroom. After that, you have to have, of course, training, as you know, said. It's very, very important so educators can feel safe while using the technology and having the support they need for that. And have annual workshops tailored to their needs and interests in the classroom. And then you need to identify the connection with the actual curriculum that they need to have in teaching class. Because otherwise, if these two are not connected, then there's going to be a gap in between what they have to do in class, what they have to teach, and the material they have that digitized for them to do with VR and AR.
Great. So, David, with regards to screen time, let's go to the next issue. With regards to screen time and content quality. So, is it important to know how long can students participate in such programs? Do you have any data?
Yeah, so we've done a number of studies, and later on we'll maybe touch back on some of the reports that have been written recently as well around engagement and improvement in social understanding as well. But I think the really important thing is that teachers are best suited to understand their classes best. So I would never say this is a set in stone. But our general guidance is that, as with any media in the classroom, that it's actually best used when interspersed throughout the lesson, throughout the learning experience. Often we will use it for 5 to 10 minutes. A study that we did with PricewaterhouseCoopers actually picked a number of 3 minutes and 54 seconds being the optimum time from an engagement standpoint of using the technology. Now, that doesn't mean, obviously, if you run over that you're suddenly losing the impact, but actually short and sharp, impactful experiences are key. And one of the great things that VR and AR allow us to deliver is to deliver those experiences as part of maybe a carousel of different activities happening in the classroom within the lesson. So I think somewhere in that region, teachers know their children best, but actually we've seen everything. We work from kindergarten up, and with a K-6 group, we would recommend between 5 and 10 minutes, and then that starts to expand up to sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, depending on the age group. And their ability to basically sit still in a normal lesson. And that's what I mean. We're not trying to tell people to work in a completely different way. What we're saying is, you know your children best. If they sit and they'll work on an activity for 3, 4, 5 minutes, then use the technology for that long. Don't try and learn a new different way of doing everything. Complement what you're already doing with the technology.
Okay. And what about the content quality? I mean, do we have content that is of good quality? Do we have educational content to support the curriculum?
We have, the answer is quite mixed, if I'm honest. There is no one size fits all for everybody. What we do have is we have everything from great experiences, as you've heard already. We've got 8K video formats. We've got highly engaging materials. But what comes with that are problems when delivering in the classroom. These are big files. They take up a lot of space. So actually what we end up doing is delivering what is required in the classroom. So sometimes we're actively not trying to duplicate what's happening in a gaming environment on a £5,000 headset, because actually what appears in the classroom is, again, for a few minutes, are really impactful. We might put children on the streets in Syria for them to understand what their age group is going through in a different country. And actually, for me, that's one of the true powers of the technology, is hooking into that emotive, immersive side of the technology that is very hard to deliver in any other way. But I need that to be controlled across multiple pupils all at the same time. And that's where the complexity comes. I'm afraid that's not an ideal answer, but the answer is quite mixed. There are some very high-end experiences, and there's also a lot that can be gained from just using 360 photos.
Mm-hmm. But do you have any studies on, because all of these haven't been around for a very long time, so we don't really know how they might impact. Of course, I know there are some studies about how much faster you learn and how much more you understand. Fine. Does it harm in any way? Do we know if the use of technology could, hinder, I don't know, the development of younger kids?
You're right, and there's a number of studies from PwC, OECD, and PISA around the impact. And you look at the headline stats. Students are 4 times more focused. They have 3 3/4 times more emotional connection to content. That's an immensely powerful thing as an educator. If I can say that 10 minutes with my class is 4 times more engaging by using this technology, it's an immensely powerful thing. And you're right to be concerned, because it is still a new technology. But what we know from working with ophthalmic surgeons is that actually controlled use, if students wear glasses, keep the glasses on in the headset, for example, that it has no impact on eyesight, for example, which was one of the key triggers, particularly in screen time with tablets, for example. But I'd always err on the side of caution. Again, going back to the educator knows their class. The child that gets a headache sitting at the front of class staring at the interactive whiteboard is going to potentially have the same problem in a headset. So if they're uncomfortable, they step out of the experience. And actually, the educator is always best suited to know the students that are in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any specific guidelines with regard to screen time during classes, or in general, if you give any guidelines for students depending on the age?
So I agree with all the things that David mentioned. So I would add that it's really important, and we have seen it, that educating teachers and students about the proper use. So before we start our classes, in the beginning of the year, we have a lot of time that we educate students on the proper use. What happens if they feel dizzy, if they don't like what they're seeing, etc. So we have rules, our classroom rules, and it is a really important part of our teaching. So for really young students, like for kindergarten students, we have seen that AR is more effective than VR, also from an educator point of view, how to be able to control, like, say, your class and your students, as AR allows young children to remain aware and interact with their real world environment while engaging in this digital content. So for young students, kindergarten, first graders, we prefer to use AR resources rather than the VR glasses.
That's a nice tip. Elias, how do you see things? How do students respond, and how much screen time do you think is beneficial, let's say, for education?
Well, we have 40 to 45 minutes of experiences, and the feedback is great. They are all having a great time, and at the same time, they remember everything they heard inside this experience. So it's not just a cinematic presentation that someone gets bored watching it. They are having a very good time inside.
They interact, actually.
Interact,
Is
yes,
that the
yes.
key?
Even
Like when you
gaming.
have interaction, you don't have to be passive and you sort of
Yes, that's
get
it.
involved, and maybe that's the difference.
They are the heroes. They are the heroes inside this experience. They live it.
Mhm.
That's why we call it experience.
So maybe the 5 to 15 minutes that David was mentioning are a lot more
way over that,
very
yeah.
interactive. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's the key to more engagement.
And they always want more. They can't get enough. They can't get enough.
But should we, I don't know, Ilana, if you have something to say on this, should we have a limit, not only for students, but also for adults and for educators? How much time do we want to give to technologies in class?
I would say that everything that we have heard is very interesting, and we agree through our research all of these years. There is not a common direction that we could give and say that 10 minutes are appropriate, or 15 minutes, or 20, or whatever as time. But we should always take into consideration the educational objectives that are set during the course, during the educational process that takes place with these technologies. We should take into consideration, as mentioned before by Iro and David, the age of our students. These are both very important factors to decide the time limit. And of course, we should also take into consideration what we want to achieve, what's the additional value that we want to achieve through our integration, which also Manos mentioned before, that teachers need to know and need to be convinced about the additional value of the technology they use. So we need to know that the technology that we use is only a tool to achieve an educational objective and not the common way to do it. We can have some other alternatives. So that's probably an option, an opinion.
Yes, that is true. First, we have to convince the teachers that it's helpful and that it's going to help them in class. So let's suppose that everything is great, schools are equipped, we have everything, and teachers are willing and they are trained, etc., etc. We have teens and kids playing on platforms and items that are very advanced, with great big budgets. And the educational material has to compete with that. How far away are we? How, what do we have to offer, let's say, that is more interesting than what they find at home or when they are playing? Is it at the same level? Will they find it very basic? What you show them in class, is it very basic? Is it boring? I don't know. David, I think you have some information on the issue.
I'm very lucky that I get to work around the world as part of my job, and I work with teachers every day across all sorts of different budgets. And what I will tell you is that teachers are very resourceful. They do not have the best of anything. Children have better selections of pens and crayons and colouring pads at home than they do in school. And that's the big thing is that I'd say that we're not trying to compete with that. What we're trying to do is engage and entice our children in the same way that for years we've put up colourful display boards in the corner so that we're trying to build an environment of learning around the children. And actually teachers are very good at that, and they're very good at taking resources that might seem quite boring and turn them into really interesting and exciting activities. And that's where we come back to this whole conversation about training, because actually it's about the pedagogy behind using the technology that's most important, not the features and functions of a particular product versus another product, but how do I use technology to enhance my learning? How do I get those great benefits we've talked about already today? How do I make that happen in my classroom? And actually what you'll find is that anywhere in the world, teachers will take a piece of cardboard and turn it into something exciting. And I think that would be the one thing. If we try and compete with the likes of Meta with their huge budgets and people creating whole cinematic experiences, then we're never going to compete with that. But what we're very good at doing is taking resources and getting the most out of them.
Okay, thank you. The Greek curriculum and the school curriculum is very dense. There is a lot of information that you have to learn. Do we have content that can support this curriculum? Is it available? Does it have to be tailor-made, first of all? Do we have to have content for everything?
So no, I totally agree with what Dave said, that teachers are resourceful. So there is a lot of content out there. So each teacher can take, adapt, search, and find content that can relate to each course. So there is content available. And for me, it's really important what Mano said, that we need to have this alignment with the curriculum, and that we need also to teach our students that the AR and VR educational content is developed for specific learning outcomes. And so there is a lot of content. And the other thing is that we can develop with our students content for VR and AR experiences, and that takes us to another teaching level.
Yes, that's great. Manos, I think you have an example of that also.
It's about like bursting the bubble that something is not as difficult as it might sound. Because in the past, when you told someone that, okay, you can create your own app for your mobile device, in their mind it will be, oh, I need 1,000 lines of code and lots of time to do it. But then there are apps like App Inventor from Google and MIT that you can do it within an hour with a simple tutorial. So you just start, you make the first step. And if you do that with students and they realize it's something they can really use and download on their own device and what they can do with it, then it's about their time and their creativity and then their interest of just taking it and like run with it. And it's the same with VR, with more and more platforms like Unreal Engine or Unity are implementing VR and AR templates within their development system. So you can start using and creating your own game by having that physics and mathematics and a lot of background that it's technically complicated, but you can have an easy start. It's simple game, a tic-tac-toe game or hangman or whatever you have in mind. And then step by step, you're going to end up learning by the process. And you have the idea and the time and the laptop with internet connection. that's all you need to do it, and just let your imagination go.
Mhm. Great. Ilona, I think you have a program or an Erasmus Alliance that is very interesting, and it would be great to hear some more about it.
Yes, Mira, thank you. That's true. Actually, through our research since 2016, we have implemented many projects that are focused on VR and AR technologies. And actually, teachers and students, although they realize the additional value of these technologies in their courses, they mentioned this issue that you also spotted, that the different quality level of VR and AR games, the commercial games, and the VR AR existing educational content, which was found very poor by many students. So this was a chance for us to make to ask for funding by the EU through a project, the PAX project, which actually aims to bridge this gap of the current existing libraries of educational content and bring together teachers and XR developers so that they can meet and they can have some common guidelines and frameworks to design and create VR and AR educational content with additional value for the formal school curricula of all educational levels. And as you mentioned, and it was also a very interesting comment, is that technology is the means and it's not the target. We don't aim to use VR or AR technology in the school, only if it is necessary and it has additional value for our students. So we don't need educational content for everything, AR, VR educational content for everything, but we need it where it is necessary and when it helps our students to learn better and achieve some skills that are not possible without these technologies.
That's great. And you said bringing teachers together with developers in itself, this must be the most interesting meeting. And I am sure also Elias will have something to say about developing educational material.
What I think as a conclusion to everything I've shared today, I think that the VR industry is ready to produce educational content of significant value. Content that includes almost anyone, regardless of his gender, race, learning abilities, and so on. The main problem, I think, is what Ilona said, is try to bring together teachers and the VR industry and have some backup. Someone to back this up, financially.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes,
That's my opinion.
That will always be an issue with schools and education. But do you think that in the next 5 years, let's say, immersive technologies will be a part of schools everywhere, not just like exclusive private schools that can afford it, but will it be part of the educational program of public schools, for example?
That's what we hope for. That's what we hope for. And I think that finally we will get there.
Let's see. Okay, so we've gone through all of our issues, and I would like from each one, if you want to say, what are your key takeaways of the day? What did you learn from the other speakers? Something interesting. I'm sure that working with one headset, that is a good tip for everybody, that Mano said. So, Iro, do you want to start? Just
So, yes, so thank you again for having me in this wonderful conversation. So, VR and AR are wonderful tools that can bring the wow factor in the classroom, but they can also help teachers build these 21st century skills, the really important skills. So, really important tools. So I really loved hearing about all of Ilona's projects, and I will certainly be looking more into them. And thank you again for having me.
That's great. David?
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. And it's great when you spend your life building these solutions to hear from the people that end up using them. And we're all always learning, which is what makes it exciting. And I think I just encourage people to, I love the idea of collaboration. I thought that was absolutely brilliant and exactly what is just good education. And associations like this are ideal. And I'd say there are countries around the world actually where most of the headsets go into public schools and build up that sort of collaborative environment between themselves, and to lean on professionals like you've met here this afternoon to ask the questions. But most importantly, don't be afraid, because actually some of the best content, some of the best learning happens by mistake, and the kids are amazing. It doesn't matter whether you're talking kindergarten, through to university. Actually, let them take the lead. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Let them guide you, and you'll get some fantastic results. Even if you're just dipping your toe in, you're not sure where to start, get started. It's worth the effort.
Perfect. Ilona?
I would like to say that it's a great opportunity offered by VRARA Association. I think that here we are representatives from many different fields, the University of the Aegean, companies, Elias, David are from companies, IRO from schools. So we have teachers, developers, researchers, under an umbrella of an association, focusing on very interesting topics, emerging technologies specifically. We are now talking about VR and AR technologies, but there are also other technologies that combine these, which is artificial intelligence, which recently became very popular. And in my opinion, it also supports these XR technologies too. So I would keep from this discussion that networking is very important. It's very important to know that there is a lot of work for these technologies, and there are many teachers that want to work with these technologies, many schools that want to offer these opportunities to their students, and it would be very critical during the next years to offer these opportunities to the teachers to get familiarized with these technologies, to the students to learn through these technologies and get new skills, and to the future to become a great future with new opportunities and new affordances for the studies and the works of the future.
Elias, what is your key takeaway from the day?
As I said, the VR industry needs to have some collaborations, as David said, and have some backup on a research level, and all these results point to this direction. So I'm very hopeful for the VR, AR, XR industry that sometime it will be mainstream.
Let's hope so. Manus?
I would say, welcome to the revolution here. I'm happy that more and more people and organizations are involved in this process of researching and going forward with VR and AR technology. I would also put AI right next to it, because it's they go hand in hand these days. There's no way that that's not going to be in the front end in the future. And I would say just don't be scared, be curious, embrace these powerful tools. It's a way to shape the future of education and prepare the students for success because the world is becoming more and more increasingly digital. So it's skills and knowledge that they're definitely going to need and use in the future.
Great, thank you. Before I invite Tom back into the conversation, I would like to say that it would be great if in a few years, the five of you have a common project, and it would be great. It would have started today, which and it will be a proud moment, you know, presenting something that started today. So Tom.
Thank you all. I'm really proud of being present in this moment. It was very insightful, and I really liked seeing all of you like embracing this journey somehow together, harnessing already VR and AR in your own ways to redefine education and inspire our youth. I would just boldly comment. I would like to thank you, Mirena, Iro, Ilona, Dave, Elias, Manos, and of course our audience for your attention and the willingness to innovate and learn. First of all, I really like that point. I think and I believe together we can shape a future where learning knows no boundaries. Your engagement and support has been invaluable, and once more, I thank you all, and I hope you also enjoyed this event as much as I did. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're ready to close. Our technicians can close the broadcast, and we can enjoy the rest of our days. Ta-da!
Okay. Bye, guys. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you once more.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
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 Bye.